Can you guys hear that? All right, so if you would take your Bibles, please go to Hebrews in chapter 11. And I know what you're thinking, Pastor Ballard preached on Hebrews every Wednesday for the past, 2 months now. And so I figured, why break that? Keep on going, full tie head. But basically, I feel like we've had a great few months. We've had for a while now, we've been on sort of a momentous roll, not necessarily downhill in a bad way, but just keep on gaining momentum, and we keep on, doing more and more for God. And I think that it's been great seeing all this, for instance, VBS, seeing all the kids saved, all the baptisms, and we've been seeing when we had Pastor Fugate, even since then, see all the growth that we've had, and all the people, there's been a different mood around here. And with Bob Gray coming and with Robbie Morrison coming, we've all been given these principles that, we know about, but we haven't, applied. And so if you go to Hebrews 11, and we'll go in verse 6, it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Jimmy, could you lead us in prayer? Thanks. So I don't know if this is going to be a very long message. Originally, I had wrote it out and outlined it for the college and career class because that's when I thought I was going to be preaching, but God had other plans, and I'm glad because we have a lot more people to hear it now, and hopefully I'm not going to blow it. So it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." What I want to talk about today is we're seeing all these things. We're seeing with VBS, we're seeing kids get saved. We're seeing kids get baptized. And we're seeing all around us the church doing for God what God would want us to do. And to me, this is something we should be getting excited about. This is something that for a church of our size, that's really loud. Can you turn that down? For a church of our size, we're doing all these things for God. And I honestly think that, we should consider ourselves lucky to be at Bethel Baptist Church. They talk a lot about the great works of Bob Gray and of Jeff Hugan, and how they have big churches. And, Bob Gray told us about how his bus route went 126 miles or whatever to go pick up kids, and that helped them grow to the size that they are now. But we may be in a small church right now. We may not have a lot of people, but we're doing what God wants us to do. We're on the right path for God. And to me, that's something I feel like we should get excited about. Now, a lot of times, what I think happens is that, and obviously this is just my opinion, but what happens in my life is that when I see something great going on for God, I want to be a part of it. I want to be, help push it. But so many times we see other people's success and we see other churches have growing numbers, and we get discouraged because our church isn't there yet. Our church hasn't got 3,000 people in Sunday morning service. And to me, I just feel like we should be excited for that either way. But back to the verse in Hebrews 11, chapter 6, the first part of the verse, I have 3 points. It says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him." Now, right now, my mindset in preaching this is that we need to be ready to, or have God use us, but we need to see what God's doing and be excited about it. We need to see what God's doing and not think this is old hat. This stuff is he saved somebody, big whoop. People get saved every day. We need to be getting excited about it. And we need to think about it as a new thing. We need to think about when we got saved. What did God do for us? You think, I thought this might be a weird verse to try and give that point. But I was thinking about it in Hebrews 11:6. It says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him." If we're talking about things that are old, if we're talking about things that have become, to us, that have become outdated or maybe just not exciting anymore, maybe boring, we talk about those things. For something to become old, it must have one time been new. When we were first saved, what was the first miracle God did in our lives? That was we got saved, He brought someone along, they led us to Christ, we accepted him, and we got saved. And faith is the thing that we had to have in order to please God. That was the first step. So in Christianity, our first step into this race is faith. It says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. So in other words, you can't do anything for God if you're not a Christian. And it says, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is. Now, kind of expanding on that point, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is. First off, if we believe in God, we should be going to him about everything. We should be going to God about little things. We should be praying about, things that may seem like a guarantee. Like, for instance, when we go to Cedar Point, Pastor Bauer calls it sunny dusky, because even when the weather says it's going to be bad, it says it's going to rain or it's going to be cold, every time we get there, it seems to go off without a hitch, and we normally don't get rained out. Normally all the good rides are up and running, and we usually have a fun time. Now, for us, that's not a guarantee, of course, but that's something that we usually rely on. We don't change the date because of the weather. We've gone several times where it's predicted to rain. We've met up at the church and said we're going to go anyways, and it was fine. Now, we need to be praying, if we're praying about these things that maybe seem like a guarantee, maybe your health. I was talking to Pastor Shell, and he was telling me that, back a little while ago, he was really, really sick because of his arthritis. And he said that he took, I guess, for granted when he could go to work, when he could do all these things, and now that he's healthy and now that he can do them, he thanks God for it. And I just thought, man, to me, with all of that type of stuff, the little things that we don't pray for very often, but God still provides for us, that is, first off, it takes a lot of faith. And second, you imagine with me, you think that things aren't going on for God. If you think that things really aren't happening anymore, start praying about those things. Start praying about the little things. Start praying about things that may seem like a guarantee. Because you say, well, if it was going to happen anyways, it wasn't really God, was it? Well, everything's God. And when we pray about those little things, we pray about good health. When we pray about even stupid things like not getting in a car accident. You usually drive and don't get in a car accident. But we pray about just safe travels. And then when God delivers on those prayers, let me ask you something. When something good happens that you haven't been praying about, does it get you more excited than when something happens and you've been praying earnestly about? When you've spent nights in prayer, maybe even in tears, trying to get something to happen, go your way, or God to move in someone's life. And then when it finally does, doesn't it mean so much to you? When we saw those kids that were getting saved and baptized at VBS, a lot of them, I don't know a lot of them personally. I was not on the buses. I was on the bus for VBS, but I'm not on the bus routes, and I don't have a personal relationship with a lot of those kids. But seeing them up there, seeing them get saved, and hearing the testimonies of them it's exciting stuff. And when you listen to Pastor Bauer, say, or Pastor Shell, you get saved, and yeah, I got saved, and it's like those little kids up there. If we had a part in it, if we had if we had contributed, if we were the ones that were down there leading them to Christ, how much more would it have meant? Now, I get it. It's the same. They're going to heaven either way. But for us to be involved, I'll show you where I'm going with this. It says, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is. If we were praying with him, if we were praying about those kids, if we were praying throughout the whole week that kids will get saved, we have now been actively in participation of that miracle that God has pulled off in that person's life. Now, that person could do great things for God. That person could do nothing for God. But in the end, it's going to uplift our spirits. It's going to show that God is still working. It's going to show us that we serve a living God when we see him performed, and that is a miracle. Getting saved yourself was a miracle. When I got saved, I was 5 years old, and I was led to the Lord by somebody who does not even believe in God, which is really crazy because you would think that doesn't make any sense. And I've had doubts about it in the past, but what I believe is real. I believe God really did, go to the cross, get killed, or be crucified, and raise the third day. And I was taught that by somebody who didn't really even believe it. It was more of they were recounting a conspiracy theory to me than something that actually happened. And it was a miracle that God, at 5 years old, would give me the understanding to, this is right, this is true, this is something that you can hold on to, and it's your lifeline. And we don't count those little things. We don't count, being saved isn't a little thing, but at the time, at 5 years old, maybe I didn't really realize what being a Christian was, but I believed that, Jesus really did go to the cross, and God really was my Savior, and God could do anything. And if we're coming to God for those little things, if we're coming to God to try and help the people around us, and then he delivers, it's so much more impactful, and it shows us that God really is still working than if someone gets saved and we had nothing to do with it. And we'll go down, and it says, and that he is a reward, or it says, God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Now, he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. We have to be involved. We have to be chasing after God constantly, as much as we can. Because, look, guys, when you're working at your job, all right, here, I'll give you an example like this. First off, I used to work at a cheese factory. When I did, we produced 485 billion pounds of cheese a year. That's a lot of cheese. And we had orders where we were proud. I mean, me and my buddy Mark, we were on the fastest line for a few months together, and we were proud because we produced 53,000 pounds of cheese in 8 hours. And that for us, that was really, really cool. And for everybody here, you're like, so what? We participated in it. We fought with it. There was another thing that we did. We had to throw trim barrels, which someone cut off of the cheese, and we have to shred it. Well, a trim barrel is roughly 200 pounds, okay? And the average you were supposed to be able to throw was you're supposed to be able to throw 4 in 1 hour. So me and Mark, threw 35 in a night. And 35 was a big number to everyone there. And it was so stupid. The reward for it, they incentivized us. The reward for it, they have this thing called the Market C, and it's a vending machine place basically, but it's in a refrigerator. You have to go check it out. It's your own. It's like the old company's little gas station or convenience store pretty much. Well, they gave us Market C bucks, 3 of them, for 8 hours of strenuous activity. And guess what I did with them? I gave them away because I was like, well, everything here costs $6, so I'm not going to do that. And there was a guy who came over and helped us throw for 25 minutes. I was like, do you want these? He was like, yes. I'm like, I'm so glad you value those because I was just going to throw it away. But so my point with that is I am standing here telling you guys this, and you're saying, I don't care. What's the big deal? It's cheese. Who cares? Me, I was diligent. I was actively participating in it, and to me, I was proud of it. For us, when we go out, and if we are to go out on visitation or we are to win someone to Christ, you feel good about yourself. You know that you're doing something for God, and God's going to bless you for it. And it's something to be proud of. It's something that, have you ever been more happy than when you led someone to Christ? Have you ever been more happy than when you after you get done up here flopping in front of everybody, have you been more happy when somebody comes up and says, that touched my heart? I honestly, and I was talking to Pastor Ballard about it just the other day, and a lot of times, I feel like I didn't do a great job. And the thing is, it's not me. It's not me, it's God. So as long as God's doing the talking, I should be proud that God is allowing me to do it, allowing me to be up here. It's an honor to be up here. And it's an honor for those who are singing to be up here. For those of you who get to, everyone here can harmonize except for me, basically. So for those of you who can come up here and just blend so well with each other, and it just sounds so amazing, and I would bet you're very proud after that, just because of it sounded really good. Everyone's happy. Everyone's it's a blessing from the Lord, especially when it's something that you guys sung. We Preach Christ, the choir sung it, and you guys sung 2 other songs yesterday, Tuesday. But anyways, Monday. Shush. I'm wearing a suit coat today, guys. I didn't fail all the way. So, anyways, when you guys got to do that, you guys powered through. You guys came up really, it was swelling. Everyone in the congregation was touched by it. It was so exciting. And I just thought, man, you know what? Every time they get up and sing, it blesses us. And, we can have that same blessing every single time someone comes up here and sings. If you think about the words that they're singing, if you think about just what God has done in the person of the life that wrote the song to inspire those words, we could really get excited about that. We could really find, a purpose, a meaning that God is living. God is doing something in someone's life, and he can be doing the same thing in yours if you actively participate, if you actively search him out. We're not growing, I guess, in terms of people, right? We have 200 people here on a Sunday, but we don't have a ton of people. But as long as when we're actively participating, you notice how much our numbers go up. Like Easter, we have, it's a big day, but we prepared for it. We painted the whole Becca building for it. We had everything cleaned up and nice, and it was good. It was nice to see the church looking good, and it was, I guess, a relieving thought to think when people come in here, they're not going to walk into a dump. But it allowed God to work, and we were participating in that work just by helping out the church and doing what God would have us to do and being servants to him. Now, get back to my notes here. If you would turn to 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 58. When you get there, it says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." And I know I've used two verses today that are it goes along great with my point. They're very old hat. Everyone's heard them. But think about what it's saying there. Be unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. You wonder why other people seem to be happier as Christians than you are. You wonder why they seem to get blessed more than you do. And it's not necessarily that you're not doing that you're doing the wrong thing, but maybe you're not going forward as much as other people are. And I think for me, I can't get excited about something that I had nothing to do with. I can't get excited about, seeing someone's prized horse run a race and win it. Like, I don't care. Who cares? It's something that doesn't apply to me. It's something that doesn't really matter. But for us, we're all in this together. We're all in this race. We're all trying to please God. That's the main objective. If we would all put forth the effort, if we would all put forth the diligence, it would make us really, really happy to see what God is doing, seeing what God can do through our church, do through us, and just do in our community. We live in, I would say, a fairly centralized part of Ohio. So we have big places all around us. There's Akron right next to us, and we have even our small town, Garrettsville, has 2,000 people in it. We have enough people here to reach all around us. And if every one of us was going full forward and we were trying to, witness, and we were going out on visitation, we could do so much. And Pastor Gray had talked about it, and so did Robbie Morrison. And, they say those things like if we all had brought one visitor, we would have, our church would be bursting at the seams because of how many people we could get in here. We need to make that real. We need to realize that this isn't just a little game. This is real life, and this is something that matters. If we're not trying our hardest, like, what is life about? If we're not trying to please God. As Christians, we've already admitted that the reason we're on earth is because Jesus wanted a relationship with us. God wanted us to be, He created us for a company, created us to be, with Him eventually in heaven. And so many people are going to not even care. People are not even going to want to go to or to have a relationship with Jesus because they see us, and we're just walking around like this, and we just can't ever seem to catch a break, always complaining. But if we were excited, if we were showing people that, yeah, God has done great things in my life, and when people complain, like, they have hard times in their life, or they have people in their loved ones that are going through something, you say, yeah, I was there and God brought me out of that. Yeah, and God can do so much more than that. And if we would just project, we don't have to be fake about it. That's the thing. God has used us. God has used our church. God has brought us through so much. We had someone just donate $15,000 to the church. How much have you heard about that? You heard it one time in a service. I haven't heard anyone else talk about it. I'm not saying that no one cares, but I'm saying that we could really show a lot more enthusiasm when we get such a blessing. Because how often does that happen? I mean, I know it came from something slightly, it came from something bad in a sense, But Carl McDaniel, he's in heaven now. We should be excited about that. We should be excited about all God is using us. And what's that $15,000 going to do for us? We already are about to put up a building on our church property. It may not be the church building, but it's a building. We're getting there. We're getting the ground. We're gonna get it ready eventually. I was talking to Pastor Battle the other day. I was thinking, man, I know that a lot of people might not think it could happen, but what if I come back in 2 years? And I'll come back before that, don't worry. But in 2 years, I come back, and there's a building on that land. You say it can't happen. Well, maybe you're the reason it's not there. Maybe. Because you're not getting excited. You're not feeling, you don't have the faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please him. If we would all just believe, before we come to God, we have to believe. We would come to God with that heart, that, God, I just want to see you do something great. And you know what? With every little step, with every little piece, a little paint, whatever that is, drywall, with all of that, with everything that we're doing here, maybe that's something to get excited about. I thought that looks really, really good. Obviously, it's not even done yet, but this looks really, really good. This is going to be carpeted and everything by the time I see it again. So, well, aside from Sunday. So, and who else? Who knows what else could be done? It's going to be overwhelming for me. I'm going to be in a big old church with I think they have 3,000 people or something like that. And they do a lot to get there. We're going to be on the buses. We're going to be on visitation on Saturdays. And, that's going to be, it's going to be a lot to adjust to see all of that. But then when I come back here, I'm just thinking, I don't know, we could be there. We might not have 3,000 people, but the parking lot being redone, us having a building right there, the stage being done, and all that's I'm going to come home and be like, is this Bethel or am I at the wrong address? Or, but God makes that possible. God makes us be able to do those great things, and he's blessed our ministry so much. I mean, my mom does the jail ministry, and I've had the opportunity to go with Uncle Coolidge once, and I went with Carl the other time, but I saw so much, I guess, excitement there because it was new to them. It was new to those prisoners. They didn't just get saved when I got there, okay? But they wanted to know. They wanted to learn. They wanted to see what God could do. And telling them stories about how my room caught on fire and my whole church, band together and blessed my family with providing clothes for me. That kind of stuff they saw, and they said, man, a church that cares. I've never seen that before. All I saw before was the churches that they want your money. They want you to come in dressed right. They want to see you as soon as you get in be, a pupil, a star, like the model churchgoer. I never really felt that love when I went in. And to me, if we could get as excited as they were when they were hearing, they were just hearing. They weren't even experiencing. They were hearing about these things that God has done with our church and with our lives individually. I'm sure if anyone else was there, they could give an account of what God has done in their life. And with all that, those prisoners, they felt, you could see in their eyes how excited they were just by being able to talk to somebody who had an in with God, if you would. They don't really know. A lot of them weren't saved, but they wanted to know. They were curious because they saw what we were doing, and they thought, there's no way someone in their right mind would go to a prison and talk to us about something that didn't matter. For us, it matters. For them, it can matter. And I'm not saying you have to sell it because God does all the talking, but we have to show them, we have to show them that this is why we're so excited. We have so many blessings. We have so many things that God has provided us with, and you guys can have it too. I think we have a great opportunity here. I think we're moving along the right path here. And I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to see it all happen. I know eventually I'll come back, but I want to be here. I want to see it all. And I'm hoping that, however long I'm there goes by quickly, I can learn what I need to know and, take it seriously while I'm there. But I really want to see this church turn into what we've been talking about, turn into the spark that sets off a great revival. Who knows how much time we have left? Not as individuals, but as everyone. God's coming back. And do you want God to come back and take all the people that are saved now? Or do you want there to be 250,000 more people who've gotten saved and to be going up into heaven? You act like a lot of people, or we act like we deserve this. We act like we're saved. We're going to heaven. We've earned it. I don't think we do. We don't deserve it. And the people that we're going to be witnessing don't deserve it either. Neither of us deserve it, but the thing is, they should get to hear just like we did. We're robbing them of eternity with God. And you know what? As opposed to eternity in hell, that sounds pretty good. Even to those people that don't really believe that there is a God, don't believe that if there is a God, he might have created the world, but he doesn't really know what's good and bad. He's not the moderator of morality. Even those skeptics out there, for us to just show them in our lives that, he's really real, and I can tell you why, because he's showed himself real to me. We've tasted and seen what God can do, and we taste and see that the Lord is good. We can tell them God has done so much for us. God, the thing is, those people, they're looking for what we have, and we don't want to show them, because we live this miserable Christian life to where, I have to wake up at 8:30, put on a tie, and come to church, And for you that go on the bus ministry, I know it's cold on the bus, or it's either extremely cold or it's super hot. There's no in between, and it's sometimes horrible. But you're doing that for God, and it's so exciting when you see those little bus kids with tears in their eyes say, "I don't know how to get saved. No one's ever told me." And I've had limited experience, but experience in the super church where little kids will come up and they'll say, "I never even heard of what you're talking about before. Can you show me?" And it's so precious. It's like, what are you starting there? What's happening with that child? What is he going to do for God? And we all like to think, that kid could be the next big preacher. He could be the start of something great. Why can't we? We're always looking for someone else. God's always going to be working. Are we? No matter what, God has a plan. He wants to do his will on this earth. If you don't step up, who is? We need people that are going to stand in the gap. But we need people who are excited about it. People who aren't doing this out of routine, out of tradition. Your parents were saved, so you come to church and you want your kids to go to church so that they can act right and be obedient to you, which a church will produce good kids as long as the good kids want to be in church. Because those kids, eventually, if they're not convinced, if they don't believe that this is real, I've seen it happen 100 times. They leave. They go and do what they want to do. And then you're sitting there saying, what did I do wrong? Maybe you put something in their minds that they couldn't even see if you really believed. And so they saw your life and they say, you're always miserable. You're always complaining. If you're always standing, just bickering and just fighting with your spouse or fighting with your brothers or sisters, what's that an example of? What is that? What's that showing other people? For us to be, I know you can't be happy all the time as a Christian, but to be excited, to have that underlying faith that God is going to take us through whatever, so we don't need to worry about it. We should always be actively seeking God, because I think that's the reason that faith and that Christianity is so old to us, because we're not taking part in it. We're not taking part of, what God is doing. If we all got involved, we would see so much more. We would see revival. And it's about time. With the people that we see around you today, if you go to a gas station and you see those people who have gauged their ears so many times, their earlobes are down to here, and you see the people that when you just walk around, I go to a public park and about 4 out of 5 people, and that's not a joke, that I meet there, my age, are stoners, and I'm thinking, what a way to live, they think that that is the best they're going to get, so they keep going back to it. We have something so much better, and how often do we share it? There's so much more we could do if we just let that light inside of us show through us. If we let God work in our lives and we work for him, we work together. Like, for instance, the boss-employee relationship that Pastor Gray was talking about, we're working for God. God's going to work either way. He's the boss. The business is going to stay open. God's doing it all. But when we see it all, when we're working and we're putting forth our best effort, God recognizes that, and he rewards us for it. And I personally believe our rewards, aside from the ones in heaven, it consists of that feeling, that peace, that happiness that we get from doing the will of God. I think we all come short, but if we could just, I don't get why the de facto position, which de facto, I don't know if some of you guys know, but just that standard. Why is our standard that we have to be miserable? Why is it that something great has to happen for us? In the Bible, they had, you saw Moses part the Red Sea, and then you saw, Jesus feed the 5,000, and all these different miracles. I feel like we've set the bar so high for God that we don't care when he does something like cure a baby of cancer. We clap when someone announces it from a pulpit, but do we really care? Do we really get excited about it? Do we ever tell our friends about it? It's those types of things, those little things. And it's not little to the family, but it's little us because it doesn't affect us. But just the little things in your life, your car's working fine, and you don't have to worry about paying a hospital bill this month. Those things, God's always doing work in our lives. He's blessing his people, and we are so caught up in ourselves that it's either we don't notice it or we just don't care. We want more and more. We're taking and taking, but what are we giving for God? I'm going to dismiss in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be up here, Lord. I don't deserve it. I pray that something that I said would be received, Lord. Just pray that you spoke through me and that I didn't say anything you didn't want me to say, Lord. And I just pray that you be with our hearts, Lord. Help us to rejoice in the good, but Lord, not to be down in the dumps over the bad. Lord, help us to be excited for you. Help us to cheer for you like we cheer for a sports team, Lord. I pray that you would give us that excitement, because if we are to trust in you and we are to get excited for what you have for us, I think we could push through this, Lord. I think we can make a mark. I think Bethel Baptist Church could be the gateway to the next revival, Lord. I think that we have it. Lord, I just pray that you would bless the people, bless the congregation, Lord. I just pray you bless the food that we're about to eat after this. And I just pray that you would